Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. I'm your host, Laura Menard, and we're going to talk about something today that is not flashy, not sexy, the opposite of what you would think being a business owner would feel like. And it definitely doesn't get enough love. And I want to share about the boring stuff and how to learn to love it, even to gamify it. It's one of the most underrated secrets of success in private practice. I don't know that I nailed this until last year. I don't know if by me telling you this that it's going to help you nail it earlier, but that's ultimately my goal, because I think that the pace in which we have success in our practice, or how fast things happen for us, we have these lofty goals of what we want to create. And if we want to give ourselves the best chance of that materializing, then you're likely going to be spending a large percentage of your time doing things that you don't want to do, or that you've deemed boring, or that are not fun. And I think that that's the reality of any private practice. It's without exception. So we can't avoid it. And so then the question becomes, well, how do we look at it so that it's more tolerable? And dare I say that we can even enjoy it? And whether you're a brand new nurse coach, a nurse thinking about it, or in your year 5 of your business, this episode will help you fall in love with the mundane and build momentum through repetition, even make it fun. In the CEO circle that we're starting this next month, with more experienced nurse coaches, we're talking about this. And we talk about this in Masters. And in some ways, it's harder than other things. But if you think about nursing, there's lots of things we do in nursing that are boring, that are required, but we don't resist it because it's our job, but we have to do it. So we don't question it. But when we're working for ourselves and we find ourselves doing boring things, we oftentimes will switch it up or change it, A, because we think it's not working, or B, because we dislike it and we think that it should feel better than it does. Because I think when we start our nurse coaching practice, I know we're chasing freedom and purpose and impact and creativity and money and time freedom and the ability to really help people. And that is all true. And it's what gets us moving. And thank God we have it. Thank God we have that part. And then we get started, and there's things like spreadsheets and reconciling Stripe payouts and accounting and all these other things that are also required that aren't as fun. And when I see that the truly embodied successful nurse coach, he or she has found a way to enjoy the mundane, to gamify the mundane. And so if we are supposed to be arbiters of transformation, then we also have to transform ourselves inside of our business. And business coaching and business mentorship, a lot of it is getting you to dream bigger, getting you to expand what you think is possible. It is the good feeling neurotransmitter filled moments. And it's also your business mentor saying, hey, you've got to do this 100 times more before you come to me and tell me that it's not working, because the volume that you've done gives me no data and actually isn't true. Everything that you believe about it isn't true. And I'm just realizing in our own season of business, the importance of repetition. And with repetition can come boredom. So here's the cold, hard truth. A lot of private practice is 80% rinse and repeat. You're going to be following up with leads. You're going to be checking in on clients. You're going to be sending emails the 4th time, 5th time. You're going to be checking in with people even when they don't respond, and showing up when it feels like nobody is watching. And because it feels repetitive, and sometimes it feels repetitive with absolutely no reward, we start to resent it, or we judge it as something has gone wrong, or quote unquote, it's not working. I've tried it, Laura. I've done this 9 times and I haven't made $10,000 yet. So it's not working. And team Shelby and I have done this too. We continue to do this. You know, Shelby will have like 5 calls that won't show up in one day, or a string of something. She'll be like, something's wrong with our process. And I'm like, well, maybe, but let's do 100 before we decide. So we even catch ourselves doing this, and no one talks about how do you enjoy the 100? Like, how do you get some of the good feeling neurotransmitters? What games can you play in your head when you're doing these? And so the reframe first that I want to offer you is that boring is where your character is built. If you are sending your 100th follow-up text or message or email, it does not mean that you're failing. In fact, if you can do that with nobody watching you repetitively and regularly, it means you're building a muscle, and it means that, in my opinion, that your chances of success are so much higher than another flashy part of the business. When you can keep up with your notes, when you have a discipline to prep for the day or prep for the week, to make the most out of your time, that's you taking care of yourself and your clients with integrity. And I think that the boring, really embracing the boring, is a signal that you're ready to become a business owner. And it's a signal that you are beginning to take on the identity of a CEO. And it's the difference between someone who dabbles in a side hustle and someone who builds a practice that supports their life for years to come. And there is nothing wrong with dabbling in side hustle. Nothing wrong. But for those of you who want more than that, then this is something you will have to figure out a way to have some fun with. And on one of our last podcast episodes, Shelby and I were talking about how lately, like the last 2 years, when we have a new project or a change or a thing we're going to do, and namely when we were writing the curriculum for Nurse Life Coach Academy, in my mind, I was like, Nurse Life Coach, it'll probably take us 750 hours to 1,000 hours to write it, to get it approved, to get it into like all the things, to film the videos. It'll probably take 1,000 hours. And it probably did. And what does that mean? What does 1,000 hours mean? Let's look. How many hours a week does it take, or is 1,000 hours? Let's see what chat comes up with here. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So if you're working full-time, 1,000 hours is about 6 months. If you're working part-time, 20 hours a week, it's about 20 hours a week for a year. Yeah. So when we decided to do this project, I realized it'd be the equivalent of a part-time job for a year with no pay and not getting paid to work it. So let me just go back to how significant that is. We chose a path where for a year, we would be working 20 hours a week on a part-time job. We'd be investing $80,000 into it we don't know for sure if it will work, if we will make our money back, or if it would all be for wasted time. Now, if that's the way that you really think about it, how could you really do that for a year? And this happens all the time in practice. We come up with an offer. We get really excited about it. We do 20, 30 hours of work around it. We launch it and it flops. Just doesn't do what we thought it was going to do. Now, if we cannot find the inherent value in that work that we just did, aside from any of the outcomes, we're going to quit. And so this podcast today is about something that's required. I don't want anyone to think this is optional. And I've just really been trying to figure out is my brain able to make use of it? Well, I love to be good at what I do, and I love to learn skills. So most of you who are listening to this, you love to learn and you like to grow, and you get bored when you've learned everything. And so part of this is like just deciding to be a really good business owner, or just deciding to like build specific skills. And it's the mindset of, if I have to do this for 1,000 hours, I'm going to have all these skills that I didn't have before. And so that's valuable in and of itself. So we have to find value in the process itself. And then we have to find enjoyment in the process itself. And so there was a strange sense of accomplishment and pride that I had in being able to take on a project that size for that long and not stop and not stay connected to the bigger vision, and to just keep going. Like we just kept going. And for you, there's likely things in your practice right now that you avoid, that you think's not working, that as soon as it gets boring, you just can't focus on it. And so we have to really reframe it. And so if this is the moment where your character is built, then this is you stepping into your identity of an incredible business owner. Now, what are some ways that we can gamify it to make it even more fun? I don't think we just have to tolerate the boring. I think we can actually enjoy it. And that means that we set small winnable goals, or we do this with our mentor or in our groups. And then this is where like getting as many no's as possible works really well. This is where your client tracker, basically your first version of your CRM or customer relations manager is built, and that you, at the end of each day that you work, you fill it out, or the end of each week, you fill it out. And you are proud because now it's 10 pages long, and that 10 pages is the result of a lot of hours of time and energy that you've put in that you weren't necessarily paid for yet. It is creating visual progress. It's competing with yourself or others in a healthy way. And there's so many ways we can do this. One of the best ways for early private practice is if you track everything, which we do for you. If we track everything, at the end of a mentorship year, I was able to run the numbers and tell every nurse coach how much they were paid for every invite. So an invite is when you directly ask another human being if they want to have a session or two with you for free. And it's the basic activity that builds a private practice. You can't get around it. There is no way around it. I have never seen anybody get around it. And it's this thing that you do. And by the way, it's this thing that you can do for the rest of your life, because if you can learn this process, you'll never, ever go without clients, because it's a numbers game. So the invite is inviting people to experience your coaching for free. The invite is to give. So part of your job requirement is to reach out to people in your community and give your time and skill and make the world a better place. And then on the back end, sometimes people want to pay you and continue. It's pretty cool. If you're doing 100 invites every month, that would be 1,200 invites a year. And at the end of the year, I could find out how much you were paid for your coaching and do some math and tell you how much you are paid per invite. It's crazy. It's crazy how high this number is. So when people are only inviting 8 people a month or inviting 3 people a week, this isn't fun. It is fun when you're inviting 100 people a month. It's really fun. And so we can get that number at any time. And then you realize, man, I really want to make some money in my private practice. I really got to get things going. I know that Laura told me that I am paid $42.30 for every invite that I do. So I'm going to make $420 today by doing 10 invites. And that is a victory, because I have data that tells me that eventually what I did today will be worth $420. And then the game is if it only takes 8 minutes to do an invite, then you're making 40 cents for every 8 minutes spent on this activity. That's so much more fun than all the other ways we tend to go and play with this activity that's required. And it's boring. And we want it to be boring. But gamification keeps dopamine in it. It turns a mundane checklist into a challenge, and it taps into the part of you that loves to grow, loves to progress, and loves visible evidence that things are working, even when it's not necessarily being shown in our bank account on a regular basis yet. I'm going to give you like some ways that currently I'm working with this that have been so helpful when we decided to start working with LinkedIn. So all of the niches that I've had up to date, LinkedIn wasn't the best platform. And the goal is to use the time that you have in your week the most effectively based on your goals. And that's going to be different for everybody listening here. So the goal is not like just because another coach uses LinkedIn and it works really well, it doesn't mean that you have to, but it might be. But this is where like expert consulting and mentorship is really helpful, so that you kind of know where you should be putting your time. But I knew that nurses who were looking for career changes were going to be on LinkedIn, and they were. And so I hired a LinkedIn coach and I got her system. It was very simple. And essentially it was gamification of like, hey, do this every day, do this every week, do this every month, right? And expect it to take 4 months before you get anything in return. So if you get anything in return before that, it's a bonus. But let's just say this is like a 16-week or 4-month class. And at the end of this class, you're going to graduate with something tangible. And so can you look at the activities that you do in LinkedIn for your business like a class? Because we wouldn't expect to go to college and then get paid as a nurse during our second pathophysiology course, right? That would make no sense. If you can look at some of these activities like you're still in school, and so then the value that you get is the skill that you're learning and the income. So for 4 months, I did everything we were supposed to do, and it took me about 4 months, and then I had my first post go viral and had a bunch of things happen. And anyway, that 4 months probably created $80,000 to $90,000 worth of revenue for Nurse Life Coach Academy, and it didn't happen in the first 4 months. But for a lot of you, you will post every day for 2 weeks and then say it's not working. Or you will do reach outs for 2 weeks and say it's not working. I got to come up with a different strategy. No, you don't have to come up with another strategy. You got to come up with the muscle that allows you to keep doing what you're supposed to be doing for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. This is required. It's required to find a way to relate to the mundane, find a way to create discipline, because discipline is the path to freedom. Freedom is made of discipline. It's a paradox. And discipline for some people has a negative connotation. I like success comes from rhythm, and success comes from right action and right rhythm over long periods of time. And right now I have a rhythm in our business because it requires it, where I do between a 10 to 12 hour day, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And then the rest of the week is more fluid. And it feels good because I've got the bulk of my work, quote unquote work, and then I can enjoy the other things that I do on the other days. And that's a wonderful rhythm for me and my brain. And for a lot of you with kids and full-time jobs or part-time jobs, we got to figure out a rhythm that works for you. And inside of that rhythm, we're going to prioritize the boring. We're going to do the boring first before we do the fun. Because a lot of times when we're in a low dopamine state or feeling like things aren't working, we're going to go do what we feel good at. Because we feel better when we're doing things we're good at. We don't feel good when we're doing things that we're not quote unquote good at. And if we can prioritize the boring, then we grow the skills so much faster, and then those become fun. So it is more fun to do LinkedIn when you feel quote unquote good at it than when you're posting every day into the abyss and nothing's happening. And it's more fun to do outreach when you're good, quote unquote, good at it, when you've had success and you have a track record and you kind of know how much you need to do. That's more fun. It's not that fun the first 3 months to 4 months of trying something new. So if I had to do the beginning of my private practice all over again, I would have loved something clearer for me that wasn't so, yeah, just try this. Just coach as many people as you can. Just because that's all true. But I wish somebody would have said, Laura, send this many this day, do this day, do this day, like told me what to do. I would have liked that because I was used to that. I think we are used to that if we have worked in a W-2 job. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to be your own boss and create your own to-do. And then I'm going to ask you to follow it. And one of our mentors, if anybody's listened to this with kids around, earmuffs kids, one of our mentors says, fuck your feelings, stick with the plan. And that is it. It's it. There's a highest version of you that wants to execute this thing in your life. That version of you comes up with a really great plan, or you co-create that plan with somebody who has so much more experience than you. So whatever they say to do is probably your best bet because they're paying down your ignorance debt because they've done it. So you come up with this like awesome plan to get where you want to go. And it sounds great. I've done this for years. And we come up with a plan and we're all excited about it on the call. And then you get off the call and life happens and you have feelings. And then your feelings derail the plan. And then if you do that every week, then essentially what you're saying is, I really want to create a business. I'm waiting for my feelings to be exactly what I need them to be 365 days a year to do my job. And we know as nurses, like, you're going to work and taking care of other people no matter what's happening in your life, pretty much. It's not even like an option to not go do the mundane. It's not even an option to not go to work. There are ramifications to that. So we have this built-in discipline because we have external discipline and external rules on us, and we're used to that. So the muscle here is building our own. And that doesn't mean that we have to be rigid, and that doesn't mean it's black and white, and that doesn't mean it's militant. But it does mean that we want to make consistent improvements in being able to execute a plan rather than following a feeling. Now, where is there an exception to this? If you are feeling totally uninspired, and maybe you're uninspired by your offer or what you're doing, or you're just having this blah, then I might say, what really excites you? And we'll use the excitement from the creative part, right? Like the excitement about the offer, the excitement about the workshop, or the excitement about something else. That's great. Yes, that'll help us inform the plan, but we still need a plan to execute. Like, whatever you choose to do, there will be boring tasks on the back end of that exciting idea. And then I'll talk to nurse coaches who will be like, oh, this is what I always do. I get really excited about something, I start a project, and I never finish. And so I just don't trust myself. Same. ADHD here. So many hobbies. I have done this so many times until I didn't. Until I was able to prove to myself that I could finish something that I didn't necessarily want to do. In the recovery community, they talk about, like, you build self-esteem by doing esteemable things. You build self-esteem in your business, and you build self-trust in your business by making a plan and sticking to it without so much concern for your feelings or the way that it feels. And you can start slow at first and then build over time. And this will serve you in every area of your life. This is exponential blessings come from developing this. This can be wonderful as a parent. Think about all the boring things you have to do around a household. This can be helpful in your household, this reframing. I would say right now, there's so many parts of my business that I don't like to do, that oftentimes I'm like, ew, like, what have I done? I've created a job that has so many parts of it that I hate that has to be done. And it's like, that's one way to look at it. But if I look at it like that for too long, it loses all of its joy. Because another really even more true way of looking at it is that I'm doing boring things that necessarily I don't want to do for myself, for my vision, at the pace that I want, at the skill level that I want, at the level of excellence that I want. So we'd still be doing boring things we didn't want to do in any job that we ever could take working for someone else. And just because we work for ourselves, we aren't opted out of that reality. Okay. Have you guys heard of KPIs? KPIs are your key performance indicators. These are how you know it's going well or how you know it's not going well. And in private practice, your KPIs are going to be connecting, like how many connections, how are you growing your network, how often are you connecting, how regular are you inviting, how regular are you following up, what is your conversion rate on proposal calls, and maybe in year 2 and 3, it's what's your open rate in your emails? What's your conversion rate in your emails? Maybe it is, what is your revenue based on your monthly expenditures? Like, these are, we have them in nursing, we have them in our own business. And it's nice just to pick 2 or 3 things at a time. Like, if you're going to be working on or in your business, just do 2 or 3 things at a time. Don't do it all at once. Oh my gosh, I'm giggling as I say that out loud. I like to do everything at once. I like to paint the baseboards while I'm also doing the other thing. That's pretty funny. But it's as far as like putting your focus, you want to solve 2 to 3 things at once. And then once those are solved and it's smooth, then you find 2 to 3 new things. And that the fastest way to get that more repetitive, powerful conversations book, to get the follow-up sent, to have systems, to do client check-ins, to automate your client check-ins so that you don't drop the ball in your fulfillment. And you can assign points to it, make it easy, track it weekly, and then find a mentor or a colleague that you can show your results to so that you're accountable to somebody other than yourself. I think that what I want to leave with you is that the coaches that win in business or that do really well, over time are the ones that aren't the flashiest. In fact, the ones on social media that look like they're killing it or they're all over the place or it's just has nothing to do with reality. I've seen so many businesses that look like multi-7-figure businesses online not make any money. And I've seen coaches that you would never assume are making money, making excellent money. So it has nothing to do with the way that it looks. And so oftentimes we think our business should look a certain way to be successful, and doing boring things doesn't seem to fit into that paradigm. But the coaches that have a lot of success, they're the ones who fell in love with doing the right things over and over again. It's when they post when no one's watching, they coach themselves through their self-doubt. They follow the plan, not their feelings. They make follow-ups a mini game instead of a chore, and they're constantly shifting. This is boring. I don't want to do this to this is the work, and this is what's turning me into a CEO, and this is who I'm becoming. I'm becoming the manager and the owner and the founder of a successful practice that's going to be a blessing to myself and my family and my community. And this is all part of it. And like this part that seemingly hurts as I'm doing it is what sets me apart from other people. Because if you think about it, if you can endure the boring, then you're doing something right because most people won't do that. That helps me. It's almost like a competition with myself. And I mean, I can talk to my husband about it, my sister about it, and Shelby about it. I can't really talk to anybody else about it, about like what I'm proud of, like how to stay seen in the process. The group that can see you gets smaller and smaller. Your husband or your wife or your best friends, they're not going to, when they're asking how your business is going and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I've done so many posts that nobody has commented on and I haven't lost my shit. And I've been following up 4 times with people who don't respond and not making it about me. And I've been getting so many no's. Like I just got my 100th no. Like people don't get that. So you need to be like strategic about who you share that with. And, just shout out to you guys trying to do this on your own. There is a reason why Make the Leap is that we've created it, why it's so affordable, and it's just a great space to be. I just see the leapers doing this with one another. It's like, I did it this week. I got this no, I got this rejection, I got this, like all these seeming failures. And they're like, and I'm still standing and I'm working on my mindset and I'm ready to go next week. And that's what we got to celebrate. Like that is the character defining moments. It is not, I just signed my client. I just got this. I just did this. I just got this podcast. Like that's all fun too, but it's not what gets you there. And it's nice to be witnessed for what actually gets you there. So I want to leave you with this. Where in your business can you embrace the boring? Where can you reframe it? Where can you lean into this as character building, and how can you gamify it in a way that you can do week after week, regardless of the way that you feel? And if you're listening to this and saying, Laura, I just can't, like, that's fine for you. Sounds like you got it all together. Just start really small. Amazing things are built over time, a little bit at a time. And the seasons where you feel like no one notices and no one's watching and nothing's working and you don't quit is where you get set apart from the pack, because that's where everybody else would quit. And no entrepreneur that I've ever met is immune. So if you're there now, congrats. If you don't quit, then you're winning. You really are. Let me know how this one lands as I'm speaking into my microphone really early in the morning. This is on my to-do list. This is my one of my not boring tasks, recording podcasts and talking to you guys. I'm going to head right into my boring tasks right after this, but message me and let me know how it lands. I want to hear. and have a wonderful, wonderful day and find some boring shit to wrap up with a bow and build your character. All right. Bye, guys.